Global Talk Concert, The Invincible Youth. Hello everyone, this is announcer at BeFM 부산영어방송. Well, say if you invested in stocks, you'll probably invest your money in safe and stable stocks, right? And that's because every one of us here prefers being safe to being unstable or taking risks. But since you're so young and you're supposed to go for challenges, it seems like you're sometimes investing in rather unstable stocks too. But would it really matter if things go unstable or unpredictable? Even though they do, your eyes will still sparkle and shine even more brightly, wouldn't they? BeFM has prepared the BeFM 부산영어방송 Global Talk Concert, The Invincible Youth, to give you dreams and hopes. And each venue will host 2 mentors for 4 weeks in total. And here, the 3rd edition of the Global Talk Concert is being presented to you here at Bugyong National University. And let me introduce the first speaker of the day. Here's someone who admires Korea's rapid development and growth, but also at the same time deplores the infinite competition that we have to live in our society. Born Indian, he has witnessed Korea's changes for over 35 years. And in 2011, he became the 100,000th person to be naturalized as Korean. And now he's Korean to the bone. Let's meet Professor Olok Roy, professor at Busan University of Foreign Studies. Please welcome and give a big hand to our first speaker of the day, Professor Olok Roy.
안녕하세요. 나마스테. 내가 어떤 엉뚱한 소리를 냈죠? 그 무슨 말인지 혹시 아세요? 안녕하세요죠? 나마스테라는 게 인도 인사인데 when you say namaste, it means you are bowing to the person. 머리 숙이는 겁니다. 오늘 내가 머리 숙여서 여러분한테서 많은 것을 배우러 왔습니다. I hope I will learn a lot from you today. Yes, as I was told, as they told you that I have been here for quite some time, when I first came to Korea, I must tell you that it was not the land of morning calm. It was the land of uneasy calm. So let me go and tell you my story. Of course, what I saw in Korea was with my eyes. And you know what William Blake has said, I see through the eyes, not with it. And that's how my training in Korea started. If the doors of perceptions were cleansed, we would see the world as it is, infinite. But unfortunately, we don't see that. Today we are very focused. We don't even have time to see the sky. And that is a major problem. We want to see things in a very small frame. That is one problem. Then other thing he said, quite clearly the human mind, which imagines, reasons, and creates, is dynamically active and is playing a critical role in the process of its own evolution and also in the survival and evolution of a living thing or of living things. Yes, for me, Korea was like that. My first journey to the unknown. Here I was the observer and I was the observed. My first experience of Korea was when I asked my house lady, where is the toilet? Where is the bathroom? She said, bathroom? We don't have bathroom. Bathroom is there, outside, 100 meters away. And there I realized that when I was there, I was looking at others, and others were looking at me with more curiosity. Everything I saw, I heard, or said raised more questions than answers. Even my silence had a big question mark. And there are these questions: your perception, my perception, and our perception. As usual, I was in a nice company with friends in a soju place, and after a few drinks, you all become very philosophical, and that's what happened. So one of my friends, she saw the Korean map hanging somewhere, and she said, "Oh, it is like my knitting, half finished." You could see the difference. This is what Korea is to her. Then another friend, he said, "No, Korea looks like a rabbit." And some of my friends got very upset. It is not a very politically correct answer. So they said, no, Korea is like a tiger. And then it was my turn. They asked me, "What do you think of Korea?" And I had to give a very evasive answer. And I said, "It is my Galapagos." And first thing I encountered was this: respect for personal space. In Korea, the space concept is very different from what you have in the West. In the West, if Mr. and Mrs. Kim are invited, only Mr. and Mrs. Kim should go. Their children cannot go there because there is steak for only 2 people. You cannot make a steak dinner if some unknown guests come or unexpected guests come. In Korea, it is very different. You go to a dining table, as long as there is a space to put a pair of chopsticks, you can sit there. But also there are certain places where there is no private space. And this was one such space. I thought this is my private space, but I found an Ajuma standing just next to me. I came to Korea in 1980. I think many of you were not born then. So I can proudly say that I have lived in Korea longer than most of you. Yes, when I came, President Park was assassinated by his own prodigy. You know that. Chanduan was consolidating his power. And then, most surprising to me was acting President Jae Kyu-ha. His silence was pregnant. It was revealing more than it could hide. Then, Korea at first sight, to me, was like this. Not a land of morning calm, as I said, but a land of uneasy calm. I had not seen a tank before in my lifetime. But when I arrived in Korea, there were tanks on the streets. I saw armored vehicles, helicopters in my university campus, flying very low. The helicopters were flying very low. Soldiers in battle fatigue everywhere. Bag checking anywhere, anytime. I was a bit lucky. My Chinese friends, Taiwanese those days, Taiwanese friends and Japanese friends, whenever they are in the subway, they had to open the bag. The police wanted to check. I had a mustache, and that saved me a lot. Nobody asked me to open the bag, but it was the time, and I felt pity for my Japanese and Taiwanese friend who looked more like Koreans. And I feel more pity for the Korean students those days. There was night curfew as well. And I remember when I went to Sarak Mountain, where there was no night curfew, I walked whole night from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning. just by myself, because I wanted to enjoy a night without curfew. And yet, Korea was very different. You know, there were lights those days till 8:30 in the evening. People were working, and yet they will go to a pojangmacha before they take a bus or a taxi to rush back home. And next day in the morning, they will be back with their dark suit and necktie, as if nothing had happened yesterday. So they worked for the day, and they worked for the future. Past was being erased every day from their memory. And yes, there were bus anyang also at that time. You haven't seen them, those village girls in their early 20s or late teens. They were big, fat girls, and they would push hundreds of students inside the bus. Those days were very interesting. And I took help of my wife, and she drew these cartoons that you are seeing. And I compared Korea those days to a Mansagi 임신된 아줌마. It was pregnant. She had her pains, she has her anxieties, and yet she had a hope. Yes, then I saw also the incubation of democracy and Korean experiment, which was very different from most of the experiments that has been done in the third world countries. I was a bit surprised when they announced that in '88 Olympic would be held in Korea. I said, my gosh, there will be thousands of cameras coming from all over the world, and what will they see? What will they show? Where is the time to change? But Korea changed. And Korea changed very quickly and very dramatically. Most important, I think you all know, was mechanism of change from Blue House to Paekdamsa Temple. That was a remarkable change in political thinking. Who would have imagined that a man who was so powerful would have to spend a few years in Paekdamsa? Of course, in Korea, the first president had come from Hawaii, and he had to go to Hawaii. But this itself was a major change. Then, tactical alignment of political forces for an acceptable transition. I saw, after Chandua, Noteu announced that he will be the presidential candidate. And everybody thought he will win. But then there was also a talk that the opposition will put up a single candidate against him. Then I thought it will be difficult. Transition will be very difficult. But then a few days later, news comes that Kim Dae-jung and Kim Yong-sam both are the eligible candidates. They will come. Then I said no. Then it will be a continuity. But still there was uncertainty, because I thought nobody had more than 30% vote. So somebody needed to take away at least 15-20% votes. And then I hear that Kim Jong-il from nowhere comes, and he becomes a candidate, and Noteu becomes the president in continuation. That was a transition, but it was also, in a way, an acceptable transition. I don't say everything was good with it, but at least in a very difficult situation, that was something that really surprised me. And then was this 금융 신명제. Yes, 돈 돌리지 말라는 얘기였죠. And I was surprised that the Korean government took care to get all the money that would otherwise would have been in the black market. I wouldn't say all the money, but the Korean, database became so powerful that today they know how many bottles of soju you consume in a month. They know how many packets of cigarettes you smoke. This database was very strong. Of course, they also traced how much money the former rulers had taken with them. Once on the road to democracy, yes, it was bottom-up democracy. There was empowerment of people and integration of Korean society. When I first came, the road from Busan, Seoul to Busan, was a highway, 4-lane. But when you go to Gwangju, the roads became narrower. But now at least the Honam-Yeongnam, that division that I saw before, is more or less bridged. Then this democracy has come to such an extent that no Korean today thinks that he is less capable than the president of Korea. This has been a major change. Now, everyone thinks there is a stake in democracy, even the mafia. So mafia also has become a part of the democratic process. And you will see that democracy has come to such an extent that even in your university here, the presidents are elected, which is a rare thing. Whether it is good or bad, I'm not questioning that. But my question is, yes, there has been a change in motion. Yes, social expectations have gone up. You will see more old people going up the hill in Korea today than anywhere else in the world. Yes, restless Korea of 80s was an incubator. People were working hard. They were making changes. They were learning every day. The same company that was making tents for the US Army started making apparels that could be exported. The same company that started repairing the naval ships or American ships or Western ships, they started producing ships in Korea. And yet, this pride also had some prejudices. It was not prejudice-free. Especially today, when you see a major demographic change in Korea. Just a few days ago, in the newspaper it was, that the whole idea of family is changing. Earlier, family meant a father, mother, and 2 children. But now, there may be just a father and a mother, no children. And in times to come, maybe there would be no father, mother, just a man and a woman. And children, there's a big question mark. And that's why this whole Tamuna thing came up in Korea. Korea needs at least 25% population more. And where will they get it from? Who will marry those people in the villages? Not the girl students, nice girl students from PKNU, I'm sure. These are major problems, but how do we look at these problems? That is something we need to learn from. Nationalism is good, ethnicity is good, but this doesn't mean that people coming from outside are not as powerful or not as proud as you are. Then, multiculturalism in Korea is of course new, and it's confusing too, because earlier the foreigners were guests, and the foreigners were treated well as guests. But now, today, they are family members. They are inside your anpang. And people who are in anpang, either you are good friends or in love, or you hate each other. There are only 2 relations possible. And that is what is seen sometimes in Korea. And this is something that we need to learn from. Yes, most of the Koreans are ready for a change of an old mindset. But still there are some who don't want to change. Yes, we need this, change and innovation. Korea proved once again that Charles Darwin had said earlier, and this is this. It is not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. Korea has managed change, and managed change pretty well so far, but new challenges are there, and how are you going to handle them? So most of the people who are getting old like me, I ask them, what will you do after retirement? They said, no, I will go back to my village. And what will you do? Oh, I will grow vegetables, grow flowers, and live, and write books. This doesn't happen. It's not that easy. You know, Toynbee might have said that history repeats itself. But there's another person, Fukuyama, he has said that history has ended. It never repeats. Whatever has happened in the past was a matter of the past. It may not come back again. So you cannot be a farmer, you cannot be a hunter again. But still, we have somewhere in our DNA that farmer, that I can be a farmer, I can be a hunter. For farmer itself, it is an utopia. Because keeping that garden, keeping that farm is somewhere that fear of future is there. But we are basically a hunter. For a hunter, he doesn't know in the morning what he will hunt, what he will get, whether he will hunt something or he will get hunted. And this is what today's world is. So we have to be a hunter. Are we a good hunter? Are we planning those things better? In fact, hunter may be a very harsh word. So I would say, I would replace it with the word seeker. And let me tell you a story. And probably you know this story. It's a very old, everybody says this, all the old people in India say this. There was a very famous teacher, and she was looking for something in her temple garden. So her disciples came and asked her, "What are you looking for, teacher?" The great teacher. The teacher answered, "I'm looking for my needle." Needle in this huge garden? How will you find it? But because the teacher was doing it, all the students started looking for the needle. The sun was setting. Somebody dare ask the teacher, "But dear teacher, where did you lose this needle?" And she said, "What? I lost it in my room." "But why are you looking for it here in the garden?" Her answer was very interesting. She said, "Because there is no sun in my room. The sun is here. And that's why I'm looking for it here." And this is what modern education is today. We think everything is there in this campus, within the classroom. Yes, there is something there. I don't say that. But it is not everything. We have to be a seeker. And one important thing is, what are we seeking? Sometimes we don't know what we are seeking. You went to a university because everybody else was going to a university. Where is you in it? And this is something will be a question for the future generation. And not only for Koreans, for everyone in the world. So my question is, let's think what we are seeking and how. You might have seen this picture. This is a male peacock. Peacock and a peahen. Why do you think this peacock became so beautiful? Why the peahen did not? I'm not talking about the gender inequality. I'm talking just as the same animal who grew in the same environment And yet one is so beautiful, so exotic, and other is not. Why is it? There's an answer for this. Is it just due to natural evolution? Or natural selection? Or a fluke? Just a fluke that the male peacock is more beautiful than the female? Probably yes, but there is something more to it. Or just because we think male peacock is more beautiful, it is in our eyes, the beauty lies in our eyes? Or is it something like this? Do we desire to change? Do we desire to learn? Do we desire to do something? Beauty and excellence is the result of strong human desire. Some have it, and many don't. I heard this precious lesson in my Galapagos in Korea. Korea changed, Korea became dormant, Korea became more anxious, more competitive. But one thing that is missing today is that strong desire that I saw in the eyes of the farmers, of the workers, of the teachers, of the students when I was here in 1980. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Roy. So how was it? Did you guys enjoy Professor Roy's talk? Yes? So he shared his feelings when he first got to Korea, how things have changed so rapidly so far until now, and that we are managing the changes so well. But we should be a seeker to keep developing ourselves. So I'm sure you guys had some questions while you're listening to his stories, and we've prepared a Q&A session. So please feel free to ask any questions if you have. But before we begin that, we have another special event prepared along with this Q&A session, which is called The Happiness of 10,000 won, or 만 원의 행복. So during the most difficult time of your life, how would you treat yourself with 10,000 won? How would you treat yourself? Well, let me think. Personally, maybe I'll get a music CD, or does it cost more than 10,000 won these days? But close, I guess. And then, listen to music and relieve some of my stress, right? And I'm wondering what Mr. Roy has prepared for us too. But now, let's have a Q&A session first. So if you have any questions, so raise your hand. And you can ask in Korean or in English, because he speaks really fluent Korean, So raise your hands, anyone, if you have. Oh.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Professor. My name is Ana Maria, and I come from Mexico. And this conference, I just arrived to Korea a month ago, so this conference was very personal to me in a way, because I really understand what you're talking about. And I just wanted to say that I really share the feeling you have. For me, Korea looks like the land of opportunity right now. And one thing I've perceived is that, for example, some of my classmates are too afraid to fail and are a bit shy, so they don't try to participate or to get out of their comfort zones. So what would you recommend to other Korean students so they can reach their full potential?
Good, Maria. Good to see you here. And I hope you have a very pleasant study plan here. Yes, Korean students are very worried about their grades. The competition is tough. I don't say it is wrong. But what my idea is, remember how all the things that you have learned in your school, how much of it have you been able to use today? I'll give you a simple example. A piece of paper, A4 size paper, you fold it 30 times. How thick will it be? Can you give me an answer? How thick will it be? Just make a guess. How many inches, how many centimeters, how many meters? Tell me. You have done this maths in your middle school, but you forgot. And you have no feeling about it. This thickness is so thick, first thing, you won't be able to fold it 30 times. If you fold it, it will be as thick, like from Earth to the moon. Can you imagine that? You have all learned e to the power 30. You have learned that in your mathematics class, but you forgot. You never used it. You don't need it. Then what will be the thickness if you fold it 29 times? It is half the thickness, half the distance from Earth to the moon. If you fold it 28 times, it will be 1/4. So like that, then you realize how thin the paper is, but how big it can become if you fold it. These are simple things in life that we have learned in our school textbooks, but we never use it in our lifetime. And this is what I'm saying. All the good things that you have learned about your smartphone, where have you learned it? Have you learned it from the manual? Nobody sees a manual these days. If you have a problem, what do you ask? You ask your friend. I have this problem. How can you solve it? And your friend just 어깨 넘어서 우리가 모든 것을 배우고 있는데 그런 상황에서 지금 학교의 교육이 얼마나 중요한지 그걸 한번 생각해 볼 필요가 있어요. Sorry, Maria. Are you good with Korean? I just told them there are certain things like if your smartphone goes wrong or something happens to it, you don't go to the manual book and look for the answer. You just ask a friend. And even in this communication system that has developed so much, what is the best communication system today? Not this TV, not this BeFM even. Tell a friend, not telephone. Tell a friend. You tell a friend and the friend will tell others, and this is what social networking is. We are learning more from that. But I think Korean friends, they do SMS, but they do in a very small group. Every day, almost the same topic, same things. What did you eat? Who are you meeting today? Nothing new comes up. And this is where I wanted to give you, the Korean students, I want to give you a very good example of India. India is not as rich as you are. But in India, when you make a friend, there is a saying, 4명이 모이면은 5개 언어가 나와야 되고 5개 아이디어가 나와야 돼요. So when in India 4 friends meet, there should be 5 languages and 5 new ideas. And that is what is totally missing in your monocentric culture. You have to diversify it. And you are young people, you should do it. All of you go abroad to study. Maybe you should not compartmentalize that Korean study is different and foreign study is different. They are all connected. You learn yourself, teach your friends, and learn from your friends. That's the best way. Yes.
네, 교수님의 답변이 도움이 좀 되셨으면 합니다. 한 분에게 더 이제 질문을 받아볼 텐데요. 그 전에 교수님께서 여러분들 위해서 좀 준비하신 게 있다고 해요. 10,000원의 행복 이벤트인데요. 교수님 조금 지금 어떤 선물을 준비하셨는지 좀 설명해 주실 수 있으신가요?
사실은 지금은 이것이 10,000원인지 모르지만은 제가 한국 왔을 때는 이 100원 단위였어요. 그때 정말 엄청 추웠어요. 특히 난 인도에서 왔으니까. 그리고 그때는 여러분처럼 캠퍼스 안에까지 버스 오지는 않았어요. 나는 본천동이나 신림동에 내려가지고 어떤 데 걸어갈 때도 있었어요. 2-3km 걸었어요. 눈이 이만큼 쌓여 있는데 엄청 추웠어요. 그때 내 친구들이 누구냐면은 가다가 버스 정류장에서 기다릴 때 옆에 군고구마 파는 친구들이. 그리고 그때 군밤 하는 사람들이. 거기에서는 밥만 먹는 게 아니라 공짜 그것도 몇 분 동안 따뜻함을 느꼈다는 얘기죠. 그것이 아직도 내 생각에 나. 지금 한국이 정말 편했어요. 그때 교실에 요즘 다 에어컨디션 있죠. 교실에는 정말 난로 하나 없었어요. 그리고 한국에 왜 겨울 방학이 이렇게 긴지 아세요? 추워서 길었다는 얘기죠. 근데 이제 따뜻한데도 불구하고 방학은 그대로 남았죠. 아마 여러 학생들이 정말 어떤 면에서는 운이 좋은 학생들이에요. 응? 다른 나라에 이렇게 긴 방학은 없습니다. 응? 오케이. 그래서
네.
그 군고구마하고 군밤이에요.
네. 그래서 이 선물을 받게 되실 행운의 주인공은 오늘 교수님께 최고의 제일 교수님이 마음에 드는 질문을 던져주신 분에게 선물을 드리도록 하겠습니다. 그러면 한 분 더 질문자를 저희 받아볼까요? 아무도 없으신가요? 그러면 아까 처음으로 질문해 주셨던 그 마리아 학생 앞에 나와서 선물을 받으시면
Maria, it's
되겠습니다.
yours.
네. 무대
For
앞으로
your
please
question,
come up to the
for a
stage,
nice
Maria,
question, you get this prize.
to get this present.
Come forward.
Could you please come forward?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Be the change
축하드립니다.
and lead the change.
So thank you very much, Professor, once again, and please give a big round of applause for Professor Roy. Now you're listening to the third edition of BeFM 부산영어방송 Global Talk Concert, The Invincible Youth, taking place here at Bugyong National University. We're about to meet our second speaker of the day. Now, K-pop these days is enjoying much popularity around the globe, right? So there are so many people going to K-pop festivals, even being held abroad. However, it is true that as Koreans, we pay little attention to our own traditional music, such as pansori, for example, right? And this second speaker we'll meet today has chosen this traditional Korean music over K-pop. Our second speaker, Mr. Ryan Cassidy, a blue-eyed traditional pansori musician who loves pansori and spreads the unique Korean music tradition around the world. Please give a big hand to welcome Mr. Cassidy.
여러분 안녕하세요. 오늘 이렇게 많은 학생들이 나올 건지 상상 못했어요. 왜냐면 우리 학교, 저는 춘천에서 왔어요 오늘. 강원도 춘천. 근데 우리 학교는 뭐 금요일 점심 시간 되면 우리 캠퍼스는 텅 비어요. 그래서 오늘 금요일 아침에 뭐 학생들이 나올까? 이렇게 많이 나오는지 참 대단하다고 생각합니다. 여러분 반갑습니다. So why am I here? How did I get here? This is not something you see every day. Starting at the beginning, about 5.5 years ago, I sat down for my first pansori lesson. And I sat down in front of my teacher, and I was learning a part of Shimcheonga. I was learning one of the ending parts of Shimcheonga when Shimbongsa bang opens his eyes and realizes, Shimwangwoo, that's my daughter. She's alive. And the song begins, 옳체인제. And so my teacher said this, and she says, 따라해. And I said, 옳체인제. She said, 아니야, 따라해. 옳체인제. And so back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I couldn't understand the words. I didn't know what the story of the song was. The sound was very strange to my ear. Everything about this experience was completely foreign to me. At that time, I really couldn't have imagined that I would ever end up on stage like this, singing in front of people, or that this would lead to the kind of opportunities that have come my way because I started that. I started purely out of curiosity. So what I'd like to share with you today is a little bit about my experience. I'd like to talk about dreams, accidents, and discoveries, first of all. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about tradition, particularly tradition in Korea, but tradition in general. And today's the first day that I've met Dr. Alok Roy, but our presentations fit together very nicely. A lot of things of what he is talking about, I'm going to pick up a lot of the same themes, but in a little bit different direction. So here we go. A lot of my students come to me very, very stressed about their dream. Professor, I don't know what my dream is. Professor, what should I do? Where am I going? How am I going to get there? Very, very, very stressed. And for many of my students, their dream looks something like this. It's one set of tracks. It starts here and it goes to its destination. Step by step by step by step by step. And if they miss one step, their dream collapses, or at least they feel it does. And for many of my students, this becomes very stressful. Part of the other problem is, most of my students are following the same track. And so invariably, when everybody's following the same road, it becomes very congested and very competitive. And this is a real source of stress for my students. And what I try to tell my students, drawing on my own experience, is that rather than one track, you need to think of your dreams like this. Lots of possible tracks, lots of possible options. When I went to university, I had no idea what kind of job I wanted. I went to university and I started to study business administration. And when I studied business administration, I took one course in business administration, and it wasn't difficult, but it was boring. And so I abandoned business, and I chose what I liked, history. And so I studied history. Like Korea, not many jobs for history majors. But I didn't go to university for a job, I went for an education. And through my life, I found that following what I like doing, yes, have some plans and some goals, but following what I like doing, doors have opened up, opportunities have presented themselves. And so this is what I like to tell my students. Keep your dreams wide open, right? Plan lots of routes, keep your eyes open. Learning pansori has reinforced this for me. Right? Can anybody tell me, what do all of these things have in common? These were all discovered by accident. Right? All of these things were discovered purely by accident. For me, everything that I've learned from pansori, and for me, pansori has become, I tell people often that it's like an iceberg. Right? The original image that I had of a singer on stage, drummer, very simple, was like the ice poking out of the water of the iceberg. But underneath, in the water, there is so much more. And as I learn pansori, there's more to learn. And the more I learn, there's more to learn. It just goes on and on and on. Korean culture, Korean history, Korean language, Korean society, Korean psychology, about Korean culture, but also very, very human experiences that have helped me grow a great deal. But my discovery was almost entirely by accident. Almost because I didn't know what I was doing. If somebody told me before I started how difficult pansori was, I wouldn't have started. If somebody told me my very first stage was a television program, 국악 한마당. 국악 한마당 전혀 모르는 상태에 갔어요. It was terrible. 완전 망했어요. If anybody told me how badly I was going to do, I wouldn't have gone. And so I've just kept doing things without thinking about an outcome, without really a goal. And slowly, surely, good things have happened. Good opportunities have presented themselves for me, but more than that, I've had a great opportunity to learn a great deal. Culture in the English language is often considered one of the most difficult words to explain or to understand. What does culture mean? And in part of what I teach my students is intercultural communication, how to communicate across cultural differences. And the easiest way that I found to explain culture to my students is with this very complicated picture. Yes? 복잡하죠? No, it's very simple. Right? This is my cultural circle. And what this means is that everything inside the circle, this is my culture. This is everything that's normal for me. Right? Simple things like how do I eat? How do I understand spirituality? How do I communicate with other people? How do I establish relationships with other people? Everything that's normal for me, that I accept without question, is my cultural circle. So, for example, in Korea, when you go home to your house tonight or to your dormitory room, the first thing you're probably going to do is take off your shoes. It's normal. It's expected. You don't question it. Those sorts of things are your culture. Right? For me, understanding what culture is, I think if I didn't come to Korea, I would never have come to understand this. Coming to Korea has helped me understand culture. Why? Because now I understand what it's like to be foreign. And understanding what it's like to be foreign has helped me understand culture. Pansori, if this is my cultural circle, Pansori is like way over here. Right? It's totally foreign to me. Right? Everybody has things that they just don't do. Some people, math, I don't do math. Music, I don't do music. Whatever it is, things that you're not comfortable doing, going to noraebang, whatever it is, things that you never ever do, music is mine. I know that sounds very strange. But growing up, until I started Pansori, I didn't do music at all. I hate noraebang. I still hate noraebang. And so for my family, when I tell them back in Canada, yeah, I'm performing, I'm singing Korean traditional music on stage, they say, hey, 장난하지 마. They think it's funny. They don't believe me. Right? But by doing something so far out of my circle, by getting so far out of my comfort zone, it has taught me a great deal. Right? And I've managed to bring something into my comfort zone now, and honestly now, I can't remember or imagine my life before I started learning Pansori. So when Anna Maria talks about getting out of your comfort zone, yes, that's one of the things that I want to really encourage for you today. Right? And I'll share with you a few stories of my experiences learning Pansori, and hopefully this may give you a few ideas about how you might keep your eyes open and get out of that comfort zone. So, Pansori was foreign to me, but it very, very quickly became obvious to me that Pansori was foreign to Koreans. This took me a long time to understand. And one of the first ways that I came to understand this was that I went to a Pansori contest. And again, I went to the contest completely ignorant, thinking probably there will be lots of other foreigners there that do this like I do. No, none, zero. Right? I was the first person to attend the contest in 17 years. Right? They had never seen a foreigner in this contest. And so when I walked in, people were talking, going, "그 사람 같다." I was like, why are they looking at me? Then I found out later. So before I went to the contest, I bought a new hanbok, the one that was in the picture before. And the sulti, this string that you tie around your chest, the sulti, I had no idea how to tie this thing. I didn't know, does it go around my waist, or what do I do with it? It's just a long blue thing. And so I asked people at the contest, can you help me tie my sulti? I asked 6 people. I got 6 different methods. All of them wrong. All right, let's have a look at this gentleman. He, looking nice, wedding day. What do you think about this? It's completely wrong. All right, this is correct. The sulti is supposed to be up around, right underneath your armpits, right up around your chest, and nothing in Korean clothing gets tied like this sort of nabi necktie thing. Nothing in Korean clothing ever gets tied that way. Right? But the first person to tie my sulti, this is exactly how he tied it. He said, this is it. 확실히, this is 이렇게 해야 돼. I looked at it, I said, no, I don't think so. And asked another person. And eventually, after 6 tries, the 7th person was a professor specializing in Korean fashion and traditional clothing, and she taught me the correct way. And so I still go to contests, and I still see people with this kind of thing. So that was my first hint. Koreans don't seem to understand this all very well. Second hint. So this was one of the first songs that I was learning. This is the beginning of Shimchanga, and the beginning of Shimchanga is a long list of skills that Kwak Shibuin can do. Kwak Shibuin is like a Chosun Dynasty superwoman. She can do everything. But the words, the 가사, 아무리 해도 외울 수 없었어요. I looked at them, I looked away, I forgot them. And it went on for 6 months. 6 months, I couldn't remember this. And the man that I was learning with at the time, he said, don't worry. He said, Koreans don't understand this either. And I said, come on. How could Koreans not understand this? And so what I did was I took my book and I showed it to somebody who wasn't learning pansori, and I said, can you explain what this is all about? And they looked at it and went, I have no idea. I have nothing. I had nothing. I don't know. And so then I realized, here we have a situation where Korea's traditions seem to be a little bit foreign, even for Koreans. This is a quote from somebody who's a professionally trained pansori singer, but she's also a professor at Ohio State University. And she's one of few people that writes with any authority on pansori in English. And it's a phrase that I've come to like, that Koreans have become tourists on their own soil when it comes to tradition. So this got me thinking about tradition and thinking, wow, tradition seems to be something that's disappearing in Korea. And I started thinking, well, is tradition very important? And tradition is something that Canadians really have a very hard time with. I'm from Canada. Tradition in Canada is a little bit difficult. The reason is everybody in Canada is from somebody else, someplace else. So my ancestors are Irish, and we have Korean Canadians, and Indian Canadians, and Russian Canadians, and German Canadians, and Italian Canadians, and blah, 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 blah. So all of our traditions come from someplace else. Also, Canada's a very wide country, you all know. Tradition tends to be very local. And so I started thinking first about Canadian tradition, thinking that, well, before I go diving into Korean tradition, I should maybe understand a little bit about my own tradition. So for today, what I did, I went to the only authority on anything. When you want to know something, what do you do? Something that you want to understand, what do? You Google it. Right? So I did a Google image search of Canadian tradition. Typed Canadian tradition, took a Google image search, and I brought the 10 top pictures with me today. So this is what you get when you type Canadian tradition. So I looked at all of these pictures, lots of hunting, lots of guns. I looked at these pictures and decided, clearly, I'm not Canadian. Because I don't understand any of this. I don't know what these people down here are doing. It looks like a wedding, but they're cutting trees. The dead ducks, I don't know. So I really didn't understand my own tradition. All right? And so I started thinking about, well, what possible role might these traditions play in a modern society? Oh, no, laser point, no, next slide. Typically, people tend to look at tradition and modernity as opposites. Right? Modernity, that's here now, fast-paced, change. I mean, we keep hearing change in these presentations. Koreans, amazing country for change. So there's modernity, there's modern, and then there's tradition. Tradition, we tend to think that tradition is something it's in the museum. It's old. It's not changing. It's stuck. It's frozen. Has no place, no relevance in the modern world. This is how we tend to approach these things. And I find that's a little bit unfortunate. One of the things that I hear so very often, 한국 사람들한테 어려운 판소리 어떻게 배우냐고. 한국 사람한테 어려운 판소리. This is an expression that I like it when people ask me this because it gives me a chance to talk a lot. I don't think pansori is difficult for Koreans. It's not difficult, it's unknown. It's not known. I look at young Koreans, they go out and they learn violin, and you see little tiny people on the piano, on the violin, and they can do amazing things that I can't do. And piano, or any other soyanki. But they don't know Korean traditional music. Well, if at all. It's not difficult, it's unknown. And the proof of that is my own kids, my children. Both my son, he's 11, and my daughter both learn pansori. She's 7, she just started. They started because they saw me doing it. And they said, hey, I want to give this a try. And for them, it's natural, it's normal, it's not difficult, it's easy. My daughter's 7, it's so frustrating. These lyrics, kasa, takes me forever to memorize one section. My daughter, it's like 10 seconds. She hears it once and she's got it. She knows all the lyrics to everything I can sing. I've been learning for 5 years. She knows all of them. Right? She just hums along, saranga, whatever. She just hums along with them like it's nothing. So it's not so much that this is difficult, it's that it's been lost. Right? And so we want to start to think about what is the value of that. Can you keep your soul without remaining backward? So can you maintain what it is about being Korean without being stuck in the past? Does it have a relevant role here in this modern, fast-changing society? I sincerely hope that it does. What I'd like to suggest is that tradition and modernity need to fit together. Now, of course, we can't all go and live in hanok. And I don't expect you all to go to school on Monday dressed in hanbok. Tradition is not something fixed. And that's the unfortunate perception, is that tradition is fixed, doesn't change. Traditions must be interpreted, must be made relevant in the present, here and now, for us to understand them. If you like, I find it helpful to think of tradition as voices from the past, collected knowledge, shared wisdom, coming from the past down to the present, that we can take and interpret here in our situation and take lessons from that as we move forward. We've been saying again and again how quickly Korea is changing. Is Korea changing maybe just a little bit too fast? Korea has seen some remarkable changes, but Korea also has some very serious challenges. Korea leads the OECD in the wrong categories, some of them. Suicide rate, traffic fatalities. Korea's suicide rate is 3rd in the world, not just the OECD, is 3rd in the world. Behind who? North Korea and Guyana. These are serious challenges. After the Sewol Sakon in the spring, looking at the BBC front page, that's usually where I go to get my news, for about 2 months, not just the Sewol-ho, but there was a string of fairly negative stories coming out from South Korea. Accidents, unfortunate things happening in this country. Am I going to tell you today that if we all just go and learn pansori, that all of these things are going to disappear? No, that's ridiculous. But is there a role for that tradition, for that experience from generations past? Can we benefit from that wisdom? I think we can. I think we can. And I think there's 2 important ways that we can do that. Your tradition forms a really critical part of your national identity. It helps you inform who you are and where you're going and how you can get there. It's like the rudder on a ship, right? It helps you steer. Without it, perhaps we're a little bit rudderless. Right? Second, and for me, studying pansori has not just helped me understand Korean experience, it has helped me understand human experience. These stories that I learn in pansori are all very, very human stories, human experiences. They're presented, the style of presentation is very, very Korean, but the stories themselves are very, very, very human. Anybody can understand them. Across cultures, we can share them. Right? There are lessons for anybody to learn from these stories. So what I'd like to suggest for you today is to color outside your lines. I think the producer's going to kill me if I don't sing for you just a little bit. So forgive me. I'm going to sing for you just a short section of a danga called 사철가. Does anybody know what a danga is? 거봐. 하나도 모르지. 다섯 바탕 제목. Anybody? 다섯 바탕. 제목? Nobody? 아이고. Right. 심창가, got one. Danga is a very short song that's used by 소리군 to warm up their voice. It's like 준비 운동 before you perform. Lets the singer and the drummer sort of match up with each other. Lets the singer sort of warm up their voice. 사철가 is one of my favorites. 사철가 means the song of four seasons, and it presents a metaphor for life, comparing life to changing of the seasons, passing of time. And near the end of the song, there's a short section that I'll sing for you. Bear with me. 인생이 모두가 100년을 산다 해도 병든 날과 잠든 날 걱정 근심 다 채우면 단 40도 못 산 인생 아차 한번 죽어지면은 풍망산천의 흙이로구나. You understood it? People, your life is short. If it's 100 years, maybe we've got 40 productive years to work with, but I think it's a lot less than that. Coloring outside my lines, I have never, ever regretted it. There's always something to learn. Find those things that you think you don't do. If it's math, if it's music, if it's art, if it's dance, whatever it is, I would strongly, strongly suggest go out and find those things. Open your eyes. Professor Roy said education doesn't take place only on this campus, it's all around you. All of these experiences are around you every day. Open your eyes, take them, and make your dreams multiple tracks, not one track. Right? Keep your eyes open. I'll leave you with one last story. I want to change the question, not what is your dream, what are your dreams? About 4 years ago, I was on a television morning show with my son. The show's name is 아침마당. Yeah, I don't have a TV in my house, so people phone and ask me if I want to do television shows. I have no idea what the shows are. I show up and find out. So I go and do 아침마당 with my son, and most of the interview was me speaking, and so at the end, they arranged the last question for my son. So he's 7 now, so he was about 5 at that time. And they asked him, what do you want to do in the future? What do you want to be? And according to the 대본, the script, my son had practiced the answer, I want to be 경찰이나 군인. And so he practiced, 경찰이나 군인. And so right at the end of the show, they said, okay, Kian, what do you want to be? And he said, 경찰이나 도둑. Accidents happen. But if you think about it, this answer is much better. Right? This is very diverse. And if you start to think about this, there's all kinds of philosophy going here, things that you can think about. People, keep your options open. Don't fix yourself on one dream. Go out of your way. Color outside your circle. Stretch your cultural circle. Good things will happen, I promise you. I want to thank you for your attention and for your time. And if you have any questions, I think she's going to come and ask you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your inspiring story and the beautiful tanga performance as well. So did you guys enjoy Professor's talk? Yes, yeah, I think it was really interesting that he found out about pansori by an accident at first, and then eventually it became such a good opportunity for him to learn about every aspect of Korean culture as well as human experiences, right? And as we did to the first speaker, we've asked Professor Cassidy the same question. That is the happiness of 10,000 won. 저희 만 원의 행복 이벤트를 위해서 교수님께서 선물을 준비를 해주셨는데요. So the person who asked the best question to Professor Cassidy, he will give you his present. 그래서 질문은 한국어나 영어로 편하신 대로 해주시면 되겠습니다. 네.
예, 강의 잘 들었습니다. 제가 드릴 질문은 한 가지 길로 가지 말라는 부분을 말씀해 주셨는데요. 그 부분에 대해서 저도 전적으로 공감하는 부분인데 여러 방향으로 정했을 때 너무 하고 싶은 게 많을 때는 그 기준으로 어떻게 정해야 하나요?
Great question. How do I decide how many things, where I'm going to spend my time? It's actually really hard. To be honest, there are more things that I want to do than I have time to do. If I had time, I'd be busy doing a lot more. My advice is to just keep experimenting. Try different things. Some of them you're going to like, some of them you're not. The ones you don't like, cut them. Right? Try something else. I think the hardest thing, a lot of people are afraid to quit. That once you start something, they're afraid to quit and say, no, this isn't right for me. Don't be afraid to quit. If something isn't right for you, give it up and try something else. Go a different direction. Remember too, most of my students, their dream equals their job. Right? Let's lose that idea. Right? Dreams are much more than your job. It's how you want to live your life. Who do you want to be? Pansori isn't my job. It's very much a hobby for me. My job is a professor at Hallam University, and this is just a hobby that I've taken up, and it's led to great opportunities for me. Because of this, there's other things that I can't do, that I don't have time to do. But I don't know, have I answered the question? It's okay, you can tell me no, I can keep talking.
좀 더 자세히 묻고 싶은 게, 그리고 여러 경험을 할 준비는 돼 있는데 시작을 할 때 똑같이 둘 다 하고 싶어요. 둘 다 하고 싶은데 그 기준을 사람 그거에 대해서
달라요.
그 기준에 대해서
대답할 수 없어요.
어떻게
결정할 건지 본인들이 결정해야 돼요.
선생님 같은 경우에는
저희는 그냥 제일 하고 싶은 것은 해요. 간단해요.
둘 다 하고 싶을 때는 어떻게 해요?
가위바위보.
Thank you.
Sorry. Good question. Thank you.
그리고 그 교수님께서 준비한 선물이 어떤 선물인지 지금 손으로 직접 쓰신 카드도 같이 가져오셨는데요. Could you tell us about your story with the present?
My gift for you today is not food. Sorry. If I was thinking, I'd have brought food, but I forgot. You know, university students like anything they can eat. What I've got for you today is kind of a notebook, sketchbook, something like this. This is my own. This is something I never leave the house without this. Almost never. I've always got one, and I've been doing this roughly since I was in high school. What this is, I think you probably can hear me without the mic. Inside this book, I write down anything. Ideas that I have, things that I hear that I like. There's, folded up bits of paper glued in here. There's sketches in here. There's everything's in here. You can think of this as like analog Facebook, right? But it's mine only. I'm the only one that sees it. Right? This for me has been really very helpful. Good times, bad times, anything, to be able to express it, write it down, and then be able to look back at that later, years and years past, and look back and see, where I came from. This is something that helps me a great deal. Like I said, I never leave home without one of these with me. I've been doing this since high school. And so that's what your gift is today, is your own very personal analog Facebook.
네. 그래서 교수님이 준비하신 선물이 탐나시는 분은 어서 한국어나 영어로 질문을 해주시기 바랍니다. 네, 핑크색 옷 입으신 분.
네, 안녕하세요. 강의 굉장히 잘 들었고요. 제가 질문하고 싶은 거는 일전에 교수님께서 한국 사람들이 자기의 컴포트 존을 못 벗어난다라는 게 좀 약간 아쉽다라고 말씀을 하셨는데 제가 거기에 대해서 조금 생각을 해봤을 때 그 이유가 한국 사람들이 특히 제 같은 경우는 저에 대한 기대 그리고 제가 부모님이나 가족들에게 받는 기대가 굉장히 커서 제가 자유롭게 어떤 제 삶을 뭐 좀 어떻게 explore 한다던가 그렇게 잘 못하게 되는 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 외국 사람들보다는 저희 한국 사람들이 조금 더 가족 간의 유대관계가 더 크고 이런 면이 있기 때문에 그 엄마 부모님의 뜻에 좀 따르고 싶어 하고 그런 것들이 좀 더 큰 것 같아요. 거기에 대해서 제가 어떻게 가족들의 기대를 조금 저버리는 행동? 그것들이 어떻게 보면은 저의 컴포트 존을 벗어나는 행동이라고 이해가 될 수 있는데 그걸 어떻게 좀 할 수 있는지 아니면 그게 그냥 제가 용기가 없어서 그렇게 되는 건지 단순한 개인의 문제인지 아니면 조금 더 문화적인 그런 것들이 있는 건지에 대한 대답을 조금 듣고 싶습니다.
Okay, yeah, this is obviously something that's very much tied up with Korean culture. You know, when I went to university, my students are very surprised about this. When I was in university, my mother didn't know my major. Yeah, he goes to university somewhere. I don't know what he studies, but he's in university. Yeah, there are very different cultural expectations. You've got pressure from your family to do certain things, meet certain expectations, and I understand that. And everybody's situation is probably different, depending on your family. One thing that is certain in my time in Korea is this is changing more and more. And more the young people that come through my classroom have more and more freedom to pursue their own interests. And so I think this is something that you have to manage as much as you can. I mean, I'm not encouraging anybody to just abandon your family and say, never mind, I'm going to go do what I want. Family is important too, and you've got to manage these things. In my experience as a parent, I'm not sure how much different I am from Korean parents, but when my children come to me and tell me something that they want to do that I don't agree with, I'd like to think that I'm going to listen. And I think conversation, dialogue, I think you can start to explore some things. Maybe not everything, I don't know. It depends on everybody's situation. And I understand that pressure is there. But in as much as you can, as much as you possibly can, explore as much as you can. Keep your eyes open.
네, 자신이 하고 싶은 것과 부모님이나 가족의 기대치에 좀 이렇게 격차가 있을 때 최대한 이제 자기의 의지나 하고 싶은 것을 따르되 최대한 좀 대화를 통해서 많이 절충을 하면 좋을 것 같습니다. 또 저희 질문하실 분 계신가요?
My students never ask this many questions.
First, I really appreciate your lecture.
Thank you.
And
Question in English?
Yeah.
Yes.
So here's my question. I just want to, what kind of method did you use? Although what you did, what you want to do? I think there's probably exists some kind of hard time. Although what you do, what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yep. So what kind of method did you use?
What kind of method did I use to overcome hard times? Or?
Yeah. Every time what you felt hard time. Because I felt every time.
You feel
lot of ways. Kind of economic ways and traditional ways. What she
family
told.
stuff.
Yeah, family stuff.
For me, it's been this.
By some kind of
It's
notes.
It's not really a journal. I don't know what you want to call it. It's something other. But this for me is very helpful. This is why I wanted to give this to you guys as a gift today for the question. I think having a circle of friends with similar interests, people that you can talk to, people that you can express your ideas to safely, without them being judged, I think is fantastic support. For me, that's been the best way. And again, I hate to keep giving the same answer, but everybody's going to be different. Everybody's got their own way to manage that, manage those hard times.
Okay, thank you.
Did I answer the question?
No, no.
I feel like a politician sometimes. Not really answering the question. There any something like that?
네, 한 번 더 받아볼까요? 네.
Hello, I'm Sokun in Europe Studies. First, thanks for your speech. I'll ask simple but important things to you. When you have a trial in your life, how did you overcome that trial?
How did I overcome that trial?
Yeah.
For me, it's been a lot of support from members of my family. I have a big family. I'm the youngest of 7 children. Yeah, 7. You heard that right. So my immediately older sister is very close to me, very huge support, a huge fan of mine, and I'm a big fan of hers. So we are back and forth helping each other and supporting each other. A collection of good friends. I've been pretty lucky, I think. Trials in my life, I've been extremely lucky. I mean, so much of my life happened by accident. Right? When I was in university, I wasn't dreaming of being an English teacher in Korea. I went to university, didn't find a job, found a job in Canada, came to Korea for 1 year, 1 year plan, never left. And I think I've just been wonderfully lucky. That my trials have been, I think, relatively light. I've been able to deal with them with the support that I've had. And that's been my trick, I guess.
Okay, thanks for your answering.
So thank you. We're gonna wrap up the Q&A session now, and I would like to ask Professor Cassidy, who was your favorite student with the best question?
Well, I'm not going to play favorites because that's just nasty. What I'll do is, going first is always the most difficult. So I will, first question, I'll take.
Yeah, please come forward.
Very welcome. Thanks for the question.
Congratulations. 네, 축하드립니다. Thank you very much. Once again, please give a round of applause for Professor Cassidy.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed today's lectures by our 2 wonderful experienced speakers. And unfortunately now it's time to wrap up our BeFM 부산영어방송 Global Talk Concert, The Invincible Youth. Irish writer Oscar Wilde once wrote, "But youth smiles without any reason, and it is one of its chiefest charms." I urge you to enjoy this very moment given to you and smile as much as you want. So just look around the people sitting around you and give them a lovely smile. You can brighten up people around you. The Bugyong National University edition of BeFM 부산영어방송 Global Talk Concert will be aired on October the 23rd at 8 a.m. through our morning program called Morning Wave in Busan. So tune into BeFM 90.5 as you see here on the stage. And also the video of today's show will be uploaded on YouTube, and your keyword will be BeFM, The Invincible Youth. And we'll be hosting our 4th and last lecture at Busan University of Foreign Studies on October the 2nd at 2 p.m. So I hope to see many of you guys making the same trip for more interesting stories. Okay, once again, I'm 박예니, announcer at BeFM 부산영어방송. It was a big pleasure to be with you here today. Thank you very much.